Today in 2018 Chevrolet Silverado 3500, you're going to be taking a look at and show you how to install the CURT double lock flip and store underbed gooseneck hitch with installation kit. This is what our underbed gooseneck kit looks like when it's installed. As you can see, everything is underneath the bed. Our safety chain loops or rings, hold down rings, are in the lower of the corrugation. Our center head piece or center section for underbed gooseneck is also, it sits level with our raised corrugation. This is going to give us total bed access. If we're putting anything in and out, we're not going to have to worry about it hitting on it or it giving it an offset look. With our kit, you're also going to get a 2-and-5-16ths ball. On the inside of your head, or inside of your center section, there's going to be a pin in there. And on the side of your ball, you can see it has grooves in it. That pin is there so when you drop this in, this won't drop all the way through. So then like that, then we'll lock our handle into place or a locking pin into place. It'll hold it in place. When we want to store it, simply pull it out, flip it over, and it'll store down inside, out of the way, again, giving us total bed access. We're going to have a nice cap that's going to cover our gooseneck hole, keep any dirt and debris from getting in there. As far as our tow capacities with the hitch and the ball, we're going to have a 30,000 pound gross trailer weight, which is a trailer plus the load included. We're going to have that 7,500 pound vertical load limit, which is straight up and down on the ball. Our safety chain loops are going to be U-bolts that are spring loaded to help them stay tied up against the bed. What's going to set this hitch apart from others, some of the other ones you're going to have to measure. Once you measure, you drill your holes, hoping you got your measurement correct. With this one, you put on your frame rails, put on your cross members, and it's going to have a template you put on the bottom. It's going to have, you drill a pilot hole through the bed, and that's going to be the center of your gooseneck hole. It's also going to come with all the necessary hardware, and there's going to be minimal drilling required to get it installed. We're going to have a large center section. It's going to attach to two cross members underneath the bed. Cross members are going to span from frame rail to frame rail. And you can see they're going to be attached by 8 bolts on each side, or 4 bolts on each side, 8 bolts total. These are going to be your spring-loaded safety chain loops that are above the bed. You're going to have a double pin or double locking pin that's going to help keep your ball from moving. The double pin is going to secure it much better than a single pin. When we want to remove our ball or flip it over, simply pull the pin and you can lock the pin out. You'll pull the handle out, turn it to the side, and it'll lock on the outside of that hole. When you want to lock it into place, you simply turn your handle and let it go. Another nice thing about this hitch is our handle can actually be installed on either side of the vehicle. Our frame brackets, our cross members, in our center section are all going to have a black powder coat finish that's going to resist any rust or corrosion. Another great addition to your gooseneck would be an in-bed wiring kit. Hopkins Endurance fifth wheel gooseneck 90-degree wiring harness with 7-pole plug would work great to keep all of your wiring inside the bed of the truck while you're pulling your trailer. Now that we've gone over some of the features, let me show you how to get it installed. First thing we need to do to start your installation, go ahead and remove your spare tire. Next, we need to remove our heat shields. 1/2-inch socket. We're going to have 2 bolts here for the heat shield for our spare tire, and then for this one up here, we're going to have 1 bolt here. We're going to have a couple that run along the top of our frame rail, and then we're going to have 1 right back across that cross brace, or on top of that cross brace there. Next, our cross members that we're putting underneath the bed, we're going to have threaded holes in them. We need to take a 1/2-inch by 13 tap and clean out the threads so that our hardware will go through. Once you're done cleaning them out, I suggest taking a little bit of spray lubricant. Make sure the threads are clean. Take one of your bolts, and you'll be able to hand thread that in there. You want to make sure that you can do that with each one of the holes on both brackets, or both frames. Next, we're going to take our cross member. This one is just solid. This one's going to be the one all the way to the back. We're going to slide it in like this. You notice the holes are closer to one side. Once we get it in, we're going to span the 2 rails, or 2 frame rails. We're going to take our bolts and we're going to turn them so that it's sitting like this underneath our bed. Get it slid across. We'll go ahead and get our next one in. This one is going to be our front one. You see how this notch right here is cut out? This is going to be for our fuel tank, so it's going to go on our driver's side. Again, holes closer to the bottom. When we get it in, we're going to flip it up like this. We'll slide this one in towards the front of the vehicle. Make sure that that notch is going over to the side with the gas tank. Flip it like that. The front one. Just like that. Next, we're going to install our side brackets. You'll see we're going to have two brackets, one for each side, and they're going to have flanges like this. These flanges are going to go towards the front of the vehicle. They're going to be installed on the outside of each frame rail. The two brackets, this bracket and this bracket, is going to span between our two cross members that we installed. So we'll be using this hole and this hole in our frame rail. We're going to take our large carriage bolt, spacer block, and our pull wire. For this hole, we can go straight back. There's a hole in the back or the inside of the frame that we can go through. In this hole, we can go through, and there's a hole in the back side of the frame rail, inside of the frame rail that we can go through. Spring in, we're going to pass it through, and go all the way through to the other side. We'll thread on our carriage bolt and our spacer block. So you can see how it's in each thread. Make sure it's not doubling over, because it's hard to get it through the hole with this on it. You're going to have to pass your spacer block through first, and then your bolt. Make sure you leave your pull wire on, and we're going to do that same thing with this hole. Next, we'll get our pull wires through the corresponding holes in our brackets. We'll slide it into place and remove your pull wire. Once you get your pull wire off, you're going to take your large flange nut and install it over the bolt. We're going to have our hex bolt. You're going to put a lock washer and a flat washer on. We're going to slide our cross members up against the front and the back of our bracket. Once you get those installed, we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Leave everything loose for now until we install our center section. Next, you're going to have a template. Looks like this. It's got to have an F with an arrow. This is going to be your hole for your center for your gooseneck. So what we're going to do is we're going to take one of our bolts, F and arrow towards the front. We want this flat side up against the bottom of the bed. Right down there. Once you get your bracket in place, we're going to drill a small hole right through there. Now we'll take a drill bit, small enough to go through that hole. We're going to drill straight up through the bed of the truck. Once you're done drilling your pilot hole, you can remove your template. Now we're going to take a 4-inch hole saw bit. What I'm doing is using a piece of plywood that has a 4-inch hole cut in it. This is going to help keep my blade centered and keep it from jumping around. One thing I will suggest is take the back side of your leg and put it up against the drill bit or the drill, because what this is going to do, when it starts grabbing that metal, it's going to kick that sideways and you can get hurt. Now I suggest once you get the hole cut out, take a file and file off the edges to get any of the burrs off. Clean up our shavings. We want to take some paint. We want to cover up this bare metal to reduce the risk of rust or corrosion later on. Now we'll get our center section into place. You'll notice that the hole is closer to one side. That's going to be towards the back, the short side is. So we'll go over top of our exhaust. Slide up just like that. And then for our hardware, we're going to use a hex bolt, lock washer, and flat washer. Go ahead and get one Put it on both sides here, or on each side, hold it in place while we install our remaining hardware. Now we're going to have a rubber ring. It goes right along this edge. It's already going to have a glue in the inside of it. You just split to one side. Once you get the rubber ring on, center this inside of the hole, and you're going to have a chrome plate. Going to sit down just like that. Install that. Now we'll take a 3/4 inch socket. I would suggest using a swivel. It's going to make it a little bit easier and a long extension. We'll tighten all of our hardware for the center section first, and then we're going to torque it to the specifications and the instructions. Once you have your center section torqued down, you're going to come outside and torque your side plates to the frame rails next. You're going to torque them to the specifications and the instructions. Once you have your side plates tightened and torqued, then you're going to tighten and torque the 2 bolts holding your cross members onto your side brackets. Next, we need to drill out for our safety chains. You'll notice there's 4 holes on each side. We want to use 2 holes in the lower of the corrugation. So you can see this low corrugation here falls for these inside of these 2 holes here. So these are the ones we're going to be drilling into. We need to open these holes up to a 1/2 inch. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try to drill right up through the center like this with a small drill bit. And then I'll go up top and either use my 1/2 inch up there or a step bit. Step bit usually works pretty good because you can open the hole just a little bit more, and it helps your U-bolt slide in and out pretty easy. I'm going to use a step bit to finish out my holes. I'm going to go to at least a 1/2 inch. That's what we want it to do. Same thing with these 2. Now we'll put our springs on. We're going to start with a flat washer, a spring, another flat washer, and then a lock nut. We're going to do the same thing with this one and these 2 over here. We want to tighten these to where the head of the bolt is flush with the outside edge of the nut. Now we're going to install our handle. First we're going to start by taking your handle. You're going to have guide holes here in the center section. You're going to slide it through the 2 holes. You're going to take your locking pin, slide it into your center section like that. For your handle, put on a flat washer. Once you're through the second hole, slide on your spring. You notice there's a hole right there in that guide pin. In the handle. We're going to line up with that hole there. And you're going to have a small nut and bolt to hold it in place. And we'll tighten that into place. We're ready to go. Once you get this small bolt tightened, go ahead and reinstall your heat shield by your spare tire, and you're ready to go. That'll do it for a look at installation on the CURT double lock flip and store underbed gooseneck hitch with installation kit on our 2018 Chevrolet Silverado 3500.